Hello everyone. For 21 years, the girl who has been studying constantly faces terrifying nightmares. That's why, as per her family's wishes, she is admitted to a women's madrasa, hoping for some peace. But the horrifying part begins when she discovers that not only is her nightmare real, but she's not even allowed to offer a single prayer at this madrasa. The terrifying reason behind all this lies in the demonic presence that has awakened there. Once you learn about it, chills will run down your spine. So, without any spoilers, get ready to dive into this Indonesian horror story where truth meets salvation. At the beginning of the story, we see Linda taking an elevator to her hostel floor. As we step out of the elevator, we notice a terrifying demon standing inside, but Linda pays no attention and heads towards her room. But suddenly, while trying to light a candle in the future, the surroundings become strange and unsettling. Her 4 friends are missing, and instead, there are 4 horrifying jinns present. This incident flashes back in Linda's memory, and she wakes up from her sleep. Linda is still in the car. She gets out at a bus stop and heads to the washroom there. It's here we learn where Linda is really going. We are shown a glimpse of the past, where she was going to meet Wadis, the woman who raised her since childhood. After that 21st birthday, strange things started happening to Linda. She often woke up from terrifying nightmares. In her dreams, she saw some jinns and a small demonic child. She even consulted a doctor about it. According to the doctor, Linda might be under a lot of stress due to upcoming exams, which could be causing these dreams. But Linda didn't believe it was just stress. Now, she was on her way back to the madrasa. She was in the bus stand's washroom when suddenly she saw a horrifying reflection of herself in the mirror. That reflection warned her not to return to the madrasa. Linda, frightened, asked, "Who is this?" To which the reflection replied, "It's Linda," meaning herself. They both seemed to understand something deeper. The reflection tried to overpower Linda. Linda, overwhelmed, lost her composure and started screaming. At one point, unable to take it anymore, she slams the mirror and breaks it. Then she comes out of the washroom. After getting her bus ticket, she boards the bus, where she tries to read a book, but can't concentrate at all. During the ride, she sees a father and daughter seated in front of her. When the little girl falls asleep, the father lovingly lays her down on his shoulder. Seeing this, Linda remembers her own father. About 10 years ago, we are shown a scene where young Linda was sitting and looking at a photo album of her parents. Her mother had already passed away, and her father used to treat her very rudely. As soon as he saw her with the photo album, he forbade her from touching it, yet she held it again. He then scolded her harshly and started yelling. That very day, Linda's uncle, her father's brother, Zaid, was called to the house, where her father admitted that he couldn't take care of Linda anymore. He had been trying to be a father to Linda for the past 12 years, but now he couldn't handle it any longer, especially because every time he looked at Linda's face, he remembered his wife, Linda's mother, and the terrible sin he committed, because of which Linda was born. Linda wasn't his blood, and he no longer wanted to keep her with him. Uncle Zaid tried to reason with him, but Linda had already overheard the conversation about being sent to an orphanage and going to school from there. This caused her immense pain. Now we are shown another scene from that night. When her father returned from class, he heard the sound of Linda groaning from her room. When he entered, he saw Linda's entire body had turned black and she was convulsing as if she couldn't breathe. He immediately picked her up and started rushing down the stairs with her. But as he descended, he suddenly saw Linda standing in front of him, and was shocked into silence. At that very moment, a voice from behind said, "It has come to take what was promised." Right after that, a dark force pushed him down the stairs. He fell, was severely injured, and died right there. All of this happened in front of Linda. The terrifying part, little Linda smiled at that moment. Waking up from that terrible memory, present-day older Linda recites istighfar and seeks refuge in Almighty Allah. After this, she finally arrives at the madrasa. As she enters, she's looking at the photos on the board when she hears someone calling from behind, "Come, come." What shocks her is that the child she had raised lovingly is now truly seeking the path of Allah and wants to recite the Quran. That child, Ayu, was the one who raised Linda after her parents' death. Now Ayu calls over a teacher to show Linda her room. At that moment, another female caretaker, named Jamila, questions Ayu, saying that maybe she shouldn't have brought Linda here. Could Linda's presence cause them any harm? Hearing this, Ayu becomes quite concerned. Meanwhile, Linda comes out of her room with another and accidentally bumps into a girl. As they hold hands briefly, she sees the girl's face transform into the terrifying version of herself, the same face that told Linda this place isn't for her and she should leave. Linda becomes frightened. But the girl appears completely normal again, leading Linda to think she might be imagining things again. She heads to her room. There, her ummi tells her to rest for a while and to meet them in the prayer room afterward. While unpacking her things, Linda remembers what happened after her father's death. She had been handed over to Wattis, who then admitted her into a dull and strict boarding school. As these thoughts flood her mind, she sees another terrifying image beneath her, snapping her out of her memories. Later that evening, after the Isha prayer, Ummi Jamila addresses all the students about how Satan deceives people. She explains this through verses from the Quran. During this, Linda starts to feel something strange. She hears a frightening voice from the shadows. Suddenly, Ummi Jamila's voice changes. She no longer sounds human, but like a terrifying demon, who says to Linda, "Your time has come. The deal must be fulfilled." Hearing this, Linda becomes terrified and runs out of the room. Jamila is also left shocked and concerned by what just happened. However, even after leaving the room, Linda doesn't find peace or escape from the curse. That voice keeps whispering in her ear repeatedly, she is his. No matter how hard Linda tries to run away, the voice keeps following her. Fleeing in fear, Linda rushes into her room and locks the door. That's when we see a jinn, who shifts his attention to another girl at the madrasa, Ima, the same girl Linda had bumped into earlier that morning. Later, when the adhan, call to prayer, ends, Linda steps out of her room. She hears screams and loud clattering noises. From a few of the girls, she learns that the jinn has possessed the girl named Ima. They're rushing to call Ummi Ayu for help. Linda goes to see Ima, who is now behaving very unnaturally. Jamila is trying everything she can to drive the jinn out of Ima, but nothing seems to be working. At that point, the jinn inside Ima turns its attention to Linda and starts behaving even more violently. It looks as though it is reacting not to Linda herself, but to a force within her. Something inside Linda is triggering the jinn. The moment Linda enters the room, the jinn becomes extremely aggressive. Jamila is visibly disturbed by Linda's presence and behavior. She tells Ayu that she is not happy with Linda being here. But Ayu tries to explain that the purpose of this madrasa was to bring lost and broken girls back to the path of Islam and to give shelter to helpless orphans. If they cast Linda out, they would be going against that very mission. Still, when Jamila doesn't seem convinced, Ayu tells her they can talk more about it later. Jamila then leaves the room. Meanwhile, Linda is extremely shaken by the events. She feels it is her fault that Ima ended up in such a state. Out of desperation, she calls Vaitai and tells her that she cannot stay here anymore. Things have only gotten worse since she arrived. She tells Vaitai she wants to meet with Asnan. But as soon as she says this, the window behind her opens by itself, and Vaitai's voice on the phone starts breaking up. This terrifies Linda, and she shuts the window, trembling in fear. On the other side, Ummi Ayu is lost in thought, worried about Linda. She takes out a photo from a drawer, a picture of herself and young Linda. After Linda's father passed away, Paul had left Linda in Ayu's care. One day, Ayu suddenly sent for Hughes or Asnan because Linda had been sitting under a large tree in the garden for over an hour. Vaitai also accompanied Asnan. Leaving them behind, Asnan walked up to Linda. He found her fully possessed by a jinn. The jinn spoke directly to Asnan, saying that it had come to take what was promised to it and warned them not to interfere. Asnan immediately began reciting the holy words of Allah. As soon as he started, the jinn inside Linda began to struggle in pain. Asnan somehow managed to lay her on a table and restrain her while continuing his recitations and prayers. Eventually, the jinn calmed down. But after some time, Linda began to laugh eerily, sat up suddenly, and in a horrifying voice, lunged at Asnan. She became uncontrollable, as if possessed by a different force again. Fearing the jinn had returned, we then see Linda deciding that she could no longer stay at the madrasa. She packed her bag and tried to escape. She ran out into the street, feeling like the jinn was chasing her again. While fleeing, she came upon a house and heard the melodious recitation of the Quran from within. Mesmerized by the sound, she entered the house. Inside, she saw a young man named Tahir reciting the Quran in a beautiful voice. Upon noticing Linda, Tahir invited her to join him in recitation. As she moved to follow him inside, lightning suddenly struck, as if a jinn was determined to prevent her from returning to the path of righteousness. Flashes of lightning struck all around, and Linda became so frightened that she ran again. Heavy rain poured, thunder roared, and lightning flashed fiercely. In the midst of this, a lightning bolt struck a pillar near Linda, and she collapsed there, unconscious. When Linda regains consciousness, she finds herself lying in a room. She hears a child crying, making her think she had been asleep. A person named Azamkai opens the door to her room. Through the open door, she sees a small, devilish child walking past and then suddenly entering the room. Seeing this terrifies Linda. The demonic child walks right up to her and slowly places its hand on her stomach as if it is entering her body, making it seem like Linda is becoming pregnant. Linda tells Taher that she is currently at his house deep in the forest. He found her unconscious and brought her there. He gives her a herbal drink prepared by his father, saying it will help restore her energy. After giving her the drink, Taher leaves. A while later, Linda comes downstairs. There, she meets Taher's father, Mahabub. Mahabub tells her that Ayu will soon come to pick her up. Linda thanks him for the herbal drink, to which Mahabub responds by advising her not to wander around the forest at night because the jinns living in the forest don't like it. After saying this, he leaves. Taher then asks Linda if she is new at the madrasa. Linda replies that she arrived just yesterday. Taher begins explaining a particular Quranic verse that helps us understand the power of Almighty Allah. This verse can help us fight against evil beings like jinns and devils. Hearing this, Linda curiously asks, who are these jinns and devils, and why do they disturb humans? Taher explains that their goal is to mislead people. Those who have strong faith cannot be harmed by jinns or devils. While this conversation is taking place, Ayu is talking to Mahabub elsewhere. Mahabub tells her that bringing Linda to the madrasa might have been a mistake, as it could pose a danger to the other girls. Ayu asks what exactly happened to Linda. Mahabub replies that Linda's guardian jinn is extremely dangerous. Whenever someone says or does something against her, the jinn becomes violently aggressive. Ayu then questions why, if it is a guardian jinn, it is keeping Linda away from the path of Allah. Mahabub explains that Linda's guardian jinn is unlike others. It absolutely does not want Linda to embrace Islam because it has a greater purpose. A deal was made involving Linda when she was a child. Because of this, even Satan himself wants to keep her spiritually corrupted. Ayu then tells Mahabub that ever since Linda was around 12 years old, she had been possessed by a jinn. Mahabub then says that at that time, they could not separate the shaitani jinn from Linda. In fact, it seemed as if the jinn willingly distanced itself, waiting for the right moment. Now that time has come, and the jinn wants to take Linda with it. Hearing this, Ayu becomes very worried. On the way back in the car, she is deep in thought and visibly troubled. During this time, Linda asks her about a verse from Surah Al-Mu'minun. She tells Ayu that, if she gets time, she should write that verse down for her. Ayu agrees. Later, Ayu goes to Linda's room and finds the evening verse. She begins to read it aloud. While reading, she unknowingly falls asleep. When she wakes up, it is already late at night. Taher had previously told her that praying at night, particularly the tahajjud prayer and reading the Quran at this time, greatly helps in resisting any jinns or devils. So, she gets up, performs ablution, and prepares for prayer. As soon as she starts praying, she hears a voice from behind. When she turns around, she is startled. It is the same jinn that looks exactly like her. But it's not just any jinn, it is her guardian jinn. The guardian jinn tells her that no matter where she goes, it will never stop following her. It also says many terrifying things, frightening Linda further. She closes her ears and keeps repeating, "She and I are not the same." Suddenly, she wakes up. It was another terrifying nightmare. The dawn prayer call was being made, so Linda got ready for prayer. For the first time since arriving, she was able to properly perform her prayers at the mosque, where their imam led the prayer. And surprisingly, that imam was none other than Taher. Learning this made Linda a little surprised. Taher explained that he had been serving as the imam for the past 3 years. If Linda ever faced any problem, she could always talk to him without hesitation. This made Linda feel a little uneasy. Around noon, she got ready to go meet Ayu. We find Ayu speaking on the phone with someone. She expresses how upset she feels, saying that Linda is now suffering the punishment meant for her mother. She also admits she doesn't know how much time Linda has left, so whatever needs to be done must be done quickly. Meanwhile, Linda had already arrived and was listening to everything from behind the door. She then comes forward and asks what Ayu meant by Linda doesn't have much time. She also asks what sin her mother had committed. Ayu then reveals the truth from the past. She tells Linda that her parents couldn't have children. As a result, her mother became desperate and, in an effort to save her marriage, sought help from a black magician. Through this, she became pregnant. But after the pregnancy, terrifying things started to happen. While Linda was still in the womb, her mother faced horrifying experiences. Eventually, they discovered that in order to conceive the child, her mother had made a terrible deal with the shaman and a jinn. Both the shaman and the jinn became attached to her. In the end, Linda's father Asnan and others were able to save Linda but not her mother. She died. That's possibly why her father never truly accepted her, because Linda wasn't a child of natural birth, but one obtained through black magic with the help of a shaman. And now Linda is slowly beginning to understand the weight of her mother's sins. Because no one knew that her mother had made a pact with a jinn or a sorcerer. That's why Ayu urges her to regularly pray and recite du'as so that she can protect herself from the consequences of those actions. But Linda tearfully confesses that she can't even perform her prayers properly. The demonic jinn always disturbs her whenever she tries. How can she pray? Ayu tries to comfort her. That day, Linda sat near the madrasa pond, lost in thought. Just then, a girl named Emma approached, saying she came to collect something from Linda. But suddenly, upon seeing Linda, Emma became terrified. Her reaction shocked Linda, who silently walked away, not knowing how to apologize. By Maghrib, sunset prayer time, everyone was heading for prayers. Linda, however, was sitting alone in her room, replaying that disturbing moment in her mind, how Emma always seemed scared of her. Feeling anxious, she quietly recited Allah's name and got up to join the prayer. Suddenly, she heard a scream from outside. Startled, Linda became anxious. Was something happening again? We then see Emma standing on top of the ablution building. She was calling out to everyone below, asking them to come up. But she was visibly afraid, repeatedly shaking her head and looking at something invisible in the distance. As others tried to calm her down, she shouted that they hadn't listened to her and now Emma must die. When Ummi Ayu tried to intervene, Emma screamed that not only she, but everyone here, must suffer this torment. The jinn would burn everyone unless they left this place. Saying this, she began pleading for forgiveness from that unseen power. At that moment, Linda arrived at the scene. Seeing her triggered something in Emma again, almost as if the jinn had repossessed her. She pointed at Linda and said, she had already told her, this place is not hers. Right after saying that, she jumped and ended her life. Everyone present was horrified by her death. People began blaming Linda, crowding around her, grabbing her, and asking why she had come there. They accused her of being the reason for all of this. They said she only pretended to be innocent and pure. Someone told her, leave this place before tonight is over. I don't want to see your face in the morning. After saying this, that person calmed down and walked away. Jamila couldn't believe what she had just witnessed. Meanwhile, Linda returned to her room and started packing her things. On the other hand, Jamila was preparing to drive somewhere. On the road, she encountered Ayu. When Ayu asked where she was going, Jamila replied that she was planning to take Linda to a nearby village, so they could try to remove the jinn from her body, but Ayu believed it wouldn't be so easy, rather, it was extremely dangerous. Hearing this, Jamila was shocked and said, that means you knew all along that something was wrong with Linda. If you knew, why did you stay silent for so long? Ayu says that the right time hasn't come yet. If they try to do anything now, it could lead to danger. Jamila replies, one person has already died. Linda herself didn't even know where Jamila was taking her. Meanwhile, Ayu comes to Linda's room looking for her. Not finding her there, she becomes deeply worried. She realizes that Jamila might now be in danger because somehow or another, the jinn will surely reclaim Linda. Ayu becomes very anxious. On the other hand, Jamila was forcefully taking Linda to a nearby village, hoping to exorcise the jinn from Linda's body. Learning this, Linda repeatedly begged her, please let me get down here. Hearing this, Jamila thinks Linda wants to protect the jinn inside her, but Linda couldn't explain that she was saying this for her own good. Jamila then starts saying hurtful things to Linda, provoking the jinn inside her to come out again. The jinn screams at Jamila, causing her to lose control of the car. Soon after, the car explodes. Linda falls unconscious. When she opens her eyes, she finds herself in a hospital. In front of her stands her mother, her deceased mother, which shocks Linda. Her mother tells her that she has returned to her daughter and will never leave her alone again. Hearing this, Linda becomes overwhelmed with emotion. She tightly hugs her mother, pleading, please never leave me again. At that very moment, Ayu, who was watching from nearby, sees something terrifying. Linda wasn't hugging her mother, but a horrifying jinn. She screams, and Linda wakes up from what was just a dream. She was lying on a hospital bed, and Ummi Ayu was sitting beside her. From Ayu, Linda learns that Jamila died in the accident. This news deeply breaks Linda. While walking outside the hospital, Linda says, "It would have been better if I had died in that accident, at least Jamila wouldn't have had to suffer because of me." A responds that she was trying to strengthen Linda's faith, Iman, encouraging her not to say such despairing things. At this point, Linda becomes very emotional and once again starts blaming her mother for everything that had happened to her. Seeing Asnan gives Linda some courage. He tells her that after learning the truth from Wachter, he searched for her and found her. Asnan says that true healing comes only from Allah, and that he was merely used by Allah as a medium to help Linda recover. He advises Linda to sincerely pray to Allah, asking for healing and also praying for her parents' souls. Linda reflects deeply on his words. Right then, she makes a decision. She wants to visit her mother's grave with Asnan. Since childhood, she had never seen her mother's grave. So she runs to Asnan and begs him to take her there. At last, Asnan agrees. He takes Linda to the village cemetery where her mother is buried. Standing at the grave, Linda becomes extremely emotional. She asks Asnan about what really happened to her mother. What had occurred during Linda's birth? As soon as she asks this, the atmosphere around them seems to turn still and heavy. Asnan replies, "It's already Maghrib, sunset, time now, so